was, it was so purely developed that you can just see this everywhere. And I think in a lot of ways, in my humble opinion, that so many of the problems of African American women with our legal system, with our social systems, in so many ways, are still caused by the attitudes of that particular time. And just right down to this sense, which of course all women have understood and have experienced, no matter who you are, wherever you are, but in slavery in particular, the most private, the most intimate, the most personal things that make you a human being are routinely violated. From everything from how you look, how you stand, how you walk, what you do, what you say. At any time, someone can come and violate that, and it's their right, and it's not your right to object. Like I said, all women are subject to this to some degree, pretty much, but in slavery days, African American women, it's just beyond. You're talking about like how we were saying earlier that reading about what happened to women in the coffles as they were like being marched down to be sold. This is the sort of thing you cannot even really, it hurts, it's terrible, but we can't, it was so bad, it was so extensive, we can't even actually imagine what it was like for people living in that time. So I think I'm going to shut up and I'm getting too emotional.
I want to take up your question. See why I like it. Another way of looking at that question is, the effects of considering people as property. It's the answer to the question, why are African Americans so poor today, comparatively, as a group? This slave breeding industry was a machine for recursively chewing up the black family in every generation, and that wasn't a bug, it was a feature. That was a desired side effect for all kinds of reasons. So as the slave owning families, and slavery was, maybe 80% of socially white people in the South did not own slaves, and maybe 20%, counting all the families, connections, did. Slave owning tended to be, enlarged slave owners were less than 1% of the population. Slavery and slave owning was all about elites from the beginning. And these competing elites intermarrying with each other in these interlocking webs that rivaled those and were modeled on the European royalties' intermarriage, growing these family webs, having Roman numeral sons, Thomas Ringgold II, Thomas Ringgold III, Thomas Ringgold IV, this is a real example, Thomas Ringgold V, each one owning more slaves, which is to say having more money than the one before. While this is happening at every generation, their wealth, the black families, are getting cut up with every generation and getting more, falling back, achieving negative growth in every generation. This went on for generations, and it is one of the singularities of the American experience was how many people got wealthy here because they could grab some land and buy some slaves. It's very, very hard anywhere in the world at any point in history to change your class status, right? So if you're born, even if all your wealth vanishes tomorrow, which is what happened in the case of emancipation, Thomas Featherton IV still had a whole network of family, maybe even including people in New York or other places, former business contacts, education. all kinds, a profession, all kinds of things. And of course, because the land was not taken away and redistributed, they still had the land, which could be the basis of new fortunes. So that those who were already well off, even after the cataclysmic loss of their estate value in slaves, these people could become, again, it's very hard to change class status in a generation or two. Even the most radical examples, like the Cultural Revolution in China or in Cuba, a place where I've been a great deal, the people who had before tend to be the ones who have, and the people who were poor tend to remain poor. So even without a century of Jim Crow and everything, neo-slavery and everything else, it would have been very hard to overcome the accumulated disadvantage of all of those years of slavery. And I think that's a profound effect in one, and it's implicit in the demand for reparations.
Okay, have I lost count? Here, and here, and here. Here. Did you have your hand up? Yes. And then you're next, and then lastly.
Reading for weeks and months about slavery, and I don't know which is harder, reading or listening. But it's just so difficult, but it's
Sorry about that.
it's so important. But my question is, why in all of the books, slaves called African American? It seems to me they weren't an American. They didn't have any privileges to be an American. So
Yeah, as Constance said, they built the country.
So, yeah, they're definitely.
They're invested. They're invested. They were denied the rights, but they were invested. I think that's a pretty short answer, but I think that's right. I didn't actually answer your other question.
I'm
though,
aware of that.
Which is that yes, I am actually best. This is the first book I've written that doesn't have music as a focal point, although music is part of it. And most of my career has been in music. I was a barroom singer for 25 years. And I produced a radio program called Afropop Worldwide on public radio.
Get out of here.
WBET.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
I
my
still
goodness.
occasionally produce for them when we get funded research projects. I actually, oh my stars, yes, actually went to Angola in 2012 for Afropop. And I'm supposed to go to, and I'm supposed to go to Calabar next year. And I reported for Afropop from all over the Afro-Atlantic world. Only been to Africa once, but all over the Afro-Atlantic world. And I'm known as a Cuba specialist. And what I'm doing these days, I would be derelict in my duty if I did not announce that I lead the awesomest music trips to Cuba ever. They are not cheap, but they last you for a lifetime. Just wanted to mention that. And I also want to say, if anybody wants to get email from me, give me your email address and I will put you on my list.
We have a notebook here and our others there. Okay. All right, thank you. We had, there you are. No, you're next. She has to be on the stack.